Good evening, guys, and happy Friday to all of your sunshiny faces. This is so weird. This is one of the last times I get to talk about a football game that one of my little brothers is playing, and this is insanely bizarre. Like, I've been vlogging since I didn't vlog like the very first summer after I was out of high school. I started vlogging that winter. So I wasn't vlogging like during that first season that Matthew and Jack were both playing football. Like, Jack was playing his first year of tackle football, and Matthew was playing his first year of high school football. So I didn't record then, but the last time I talk about one of my little brothers playing football, which is insanely weird. Jack doesn't know entirely. He's thinking he kind of might want to try to see if he could play college or something like that. But he's not entirely sure. So again, his future as far as football in the future, we don't really entirely know. As far as the not yet an adult football, high school, youth football, that kind of thing, this is at least the last time I'll be talking about that. And also too, because our youth football is the same name, and they use the same mascots, and whatever that is, same town name, all that kind of stuff as the high school. It will at least be the last time that he's dressed up for his town as well. So that's kind of also sad. As far as the game goes, we actually didn't really know if Jack was going to play because he was sick. Like I told you guys earlier in the week that he wasn't feeling that great. Jack didn't know if he was going to be feeling up to playing or not either. But he actually ended up he decided, because it was his last football game, that he was gonna sort of stick it out and wind up going to the football game and playing, which he didn't end up playing. There were times when he ended up sort of taking himself out because or getting subbed in for, which normally, honestly, he almost would never come out unless the coaches specifically wanted to put another kid in. If they knew it was going to be a pass play. Jack is not a great pass coverage player, but if they if there was a situation like that, sometimes they would bring Jack out and put another kid in. But he played almost every single snap, it seemed like, this year on defense. Very, very few times did he wind up coming out. But again, tonight, because he was not feeling good, again, he ended up subbing out a lot more. Plus, on top of that too, they had a bunch of injuries, so they were insanely thin, both at Jack's position and just in general too. And then one of the kids actually that plays Jack's position, I think either at the beginning of the third quarter or right before halftime or something like that, he got hurt. He's also the running back, and he also, like I said, got hurt, and so he was out. Normally he plays running back, but he subs, like I said, Jack's position sometimes. So since he was then out, then Jack too was also out, and like I said too, there was a bunch of kids. His best friend actually was out with a knee injury. Again too, there was a handful of kids. I know one of the other kids that we coached in youth football, he was out because he was sick. There was another, again, handful of kids too that I know my dad was saying were out because they were sick. They've got something going on right now, and it stinks that it was all for at the end of the season. So, like I said, it's just really, really sad, guys. I'm so, I don't know that really has hit me. I keep sort of thinking about it, and I'm I'm not gonna see, Jack out on the field anymore. I'm not gonna have, a little brother to cheer on anymore. I was telling you guys, too, how, it's a different sort of feeling. Matthew played, football for his 4 years of high school football, and then there was 1 year between when Jack played, because Jack was in 8th grade that year, and so Matthew was out of high school, but Jack was in 8th grade, so he wasn't yet a freshman. So for that 1 year, we coached, some of the kids that we coached were freshmen that year, or again too, there was one kid that was a year older than the kids that we normally coached at that level, even though technically he was 2 years older than Jack. Or no, maybe it was 2 years older. But anyways, so he was 3 years older than Jack, but I think he was up at varsity or something like that that year. He actually was a freshman when Matthew was a senior. He was one of the kids that, like, you know, I kind of knew, like, I could cheer for, because, like, again, too, he went up through the youth program, kind of knew his family, stuff like that, you know. And like I said, too, like, the one wide receiver that graduated last year was one of Jack's really close friends. He played all of youth football with him, but he was 1 year older. Like, we cheered for him, too. Like, we knew his family, you know, all that kind of stuff, too, just because he went through like the whole thing with him. But like also too, cheering for them too. Like, I can be like, yeah, way to go, but like there's a different kind of like personal sort of like, I know him, like he's my brother, like he got that sack, you know, or like, you know, he got that interception. Or Jack actually never had an interception. He did have a fumble. He actually had a lot of fumble recoveries his freshman year, a ton of fumble recoveries. One of them he almost scored a touchdown. I think he was like at the like 2-yard line actually and got tackled from behind. So it's actually a funnier story that goes along with that one, but I don't think I'm gonna have time to share the whole thing with you guys. Like that one, you know, like again, there's just like a special kind of like feeling when like it's somebody that like you personally know that like succeeds like that. You know, and also too, like personally, like, you know, again, like I get to come home now and tell Jack, like, Jack, you did such a good job doing that, or, you know, like nice tackle, or, you know, like whatever. And also too, like the insight from like, you know, somebody that was actually out on the football field. So when I'm like, oh Jack, like what happened on that play, or what happened during this, or, you know, whatever, and then he can be like, oh yeah, like this happened or that happened, because like he was actually on the field and got to actually see it. Like, you know, it's different like when you're just like, oh, like, you know, okay, that was a good play, you know, sort of thing or whatever, but then you don't get to like sort of reminisce or talk about it like after the fact. You're not going to talk about it with them, you know, like afterwards and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, it's kind of, like I said, a different feeling. Like I definitely felt it that year, even though again I was cheering for those kids that like I coached and stuff like that. It's just different when it's, like I said, like a family member like that you could personally, you know, can you root for. So, you know, and then too, like, just, I don't know, Jack just has this kind of like spark and fire and energy about him. He's always dancing on the sidelines, like even to like just whatever there's music on, which is how I know he wasn't feeling that great, because they didn't really have music playing for very much of the game. But you know, like when there was like a timeout or something like that, you know, they normally play like music over the loudspeakers, which again, another story for another time, guys, about how annoying I cannot stand the team we played. And I will give you guys a little bit of what happened. I haven't even told you guys the actual score or anything like that yet, but like today they like had some music playing and he was like kind of dancing, but like I could tell like he wasn't like really his like energetic sort of self and things like that. And like normally like just his like cheering and stuff like that, like I don't know, it was sort of weird. Maybe too because they were missing a lot of the kids, but they're just, the energy around today's game was really, really different. Like I said too, I think it was because a whole lot of those kids either were sick and were getting over it, or were like, you know, again, sort of in Jack's boat where like they're sick right now. And so they're all kind of like, you know, like not feeling that great. So there was just, the energy on the sidelines was not quite as much as I feel like what it normally is. And like I said too, I feel like that was a little bit from Jack, like, you know, the cheering and all that kind of stuff just didn't, there wasn't a lot of it. So, like I said, that's how I kind of know that he wasn't feeling that great. And, you know, but at least he did get to, like, finish out his, you know, like, season, his career of playing football and get to still play in that last game. But, like, last week I told you guys he had, like, probably his best game he's ever had. I actually think that this game was probably one of the worst that he had this season. And not to just, like, oh, he missed tackles, but, like, they ran a lot to the outside, and Jack's the middle linebacker, so he really wasn't involved in too much. He was, like, he had, like, one tackle, I think, maybe, or two or something like that, but there wasn't a whole ton that like he could really have done anyway too, just because of like where the ball ended up going and stuff like that. So anyways guys, though, but yeah, this team that we played, the final I think was like 50 something to 6, I think was the final. We actually, they scored, got the extra point. We ended up going down the field, scored on the very next play. We ended up getting the field goal blocked because our line can't block. Like, I felt really bad for our field goal kicker. And so, because he was like very upset that he didn't end up making it. And like even too after the game, he seemed like he was very upset as well. I think they scored again, then we were marching the ball down the field and we threw an interception. I think we threw 2 or 3 interceptions. I don't know if any of them were pick sixes or at least very close to being in the end zone, at least the very first time I know. But it was all really, like I said, really tough. Like, it seemed like whenever we throw the football, they were sort of there. Like, we actually did have, I think that's how we scored the touchdown, was actually off of one of the passes. And the kid was singing like wide open, and the quarterback threw it to him. He ran in to the end zone. We weren't not able to get yardage off of passing, but it was just, I don't know what it was. It was kind of like really tough. Like, also too, again, I know specifically because there was one play where it got intercepted because our kid ran what looks like a completely different route than maybe what he was supposed to run, because our quarterback threw it deep and the kid stopped short. And so, like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, that clearly our quarterback was expecting one route and the kid ended up running something completely different. They did wind up bringing up some of those younger kids because they didn't, you know, from the frost-off level, because they didn't have enough kids, because again, everybody's either sick or injured by the end of the season right now. So like I said, that was, you know, it was sort of, I know that, again, some of that was because I think it was possibly maybe a little bit of improper route running or whatever it was. So anyways, again, third quarter comes around, I think, or fourth quarter, something like that. We're already kind of getting beat at this point. Then what I have never experienced ever in all of my years of football, and I told you guys too, this is going on 12 years of football now, I think, or the 12, 13 years of football, at least high school football too that I have watched. I have never seen an actual physical fight break out where actual punches were thrown. So what ended up happening, I don't even know what prompted this. Our kid, it was a field goal. They had just scored a touchdown. There was a field goal. They were kicking the football. One of our kids ended up actually pulling the kid down by the back of his jersey. But they threw a flag to say it was a horse collar. Okay, that has absolutely nothing to do though what happened next. Then on the other side of the football field, this kid, completely unprompted from the other team, all of a sudden starts just wailing on one of our kids. No clue why. Like I said, completely unprompted. My dad and like the other coaches too were trying to figure out, like, did he say something that like caused this kid to just start throwing punches? Apparently not. He was just trying to like block the other kid, and our kid was trying to get around him. Again, football was happening on the field, and then this kid just felt like he needed to start actually punching one of our kids. He actually got punched in the back of the neck and wasn't able to play anymore because he was icing it. And a whole bunch of other stuff ended up happening like after that. So that was like absolutely, like I said, one of the most crazy things that I have ever seen. I've never ever seen anything that has ever happened like that, where an actual fight happens on the football field. So like while the kid too, he was getting punched, like wailed on, like this kid is like throwing actual punches at him and he's getting wailed on. Our kid actually ended up like trying to, because he was falling over now because like the kid is actually standing above him, so he like takes his helmet, actually like pulled the helmet off. So the kid is still wailing on him with no helmet. Our kids then see this is going on and try and push him off of our kid, who, like I said, is being punched now. And so then one of our kids ended up getting ejected, apparently, for then like getting, again, him off of our kid. All of their kids ended up storming onto the field too. And like I said too, that kid that ended up getting ejected out of, like, actually had to be escorted out and leave the game. But it was, like I said, it was absolutely like mayhem. I've never, ever seen anything like that. And like I said, that was just like, I have no clue what was happening. My dad said that it was like maybe the kid was like really upset about like something happened on the previous play, and like he just ended up taking it out on this kid, who again too I think might, I don't want to say he was one of the frost off kids, maybe he's a junior, but like Jack was like, I think that like he knew his last name. I don't think Jack actually originally knew his first name. But then when he was coming up with it, I think it was the same like first name as one of the other kids, so they just call him by his last name. But like Jack doesn't like know him really well either, and he's not one of the like he doesn't play that like a whole ton either. So he's one of the kids that like isn't really even out on the football field that much to like be having any kind of like, you know, real altercation. And he was like, from what I saw, he seemed like he was a real quiet sort of kid too, because like then he like came over the sidelines and was like crying because his dad came down there and was like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay, are you okay? And he's like, he just started punching me. He was like, I wasn't even doing anything, he just started punching me. And I was like, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, like seriously, like it was pretty stinking bad. And like I said, I have no clue. And like I said too, what my dad was trying to say was like maybe it was something that happened previously and the kid was just like, you know, had all this pent up anger and then just started, like I said, you know, first kid he saw, he was just like, you know, going after. But like on top of that too, you're also up so many points. Like nobody from our team, you know, like normally that's the other team, like the team that's down, that winds up starting fights and stuff like that, because then it's more of like your pride sort of thing kicks in. But no, it was like the team that's on top is doing that. And again too, this is not a kid that like, especially I know too, is like a talker. You know, sometimes you have some of those players on the team. I have no clue, like I said, about this kid, and this was not a kid that I've ever seen like, you know, do something like that. So as far as, like I said, he would have said anything or done anything or provoked anything, and like my dad even said too, they watched it over on film, he didn't do anything, he did nothing. Like, you know, he wasn't like he tried to like trip him and then the other kid, you know, started like hauling on him or something like that. It was completely unprovoked. And so it was just, like I said, absolutely insane. I've never ever like seen anything like that before. And so it was actually kind of crazy because at that point I was like, also too, in my mind, I'm like, you have to either get control of the situation, which I felt like our coach actually did an insanely good job of doing, or else too, you kind of call the game there, because it, you know, and I felt like that was gonna absolutely stink for the, you know, especially the seniors and stuff like that, even though again you are getting beat, but just wanting to finish out the game. So like I was saying, you know, I was like thinking about that, and you know, I was like, how do you sort of go back out on the field after that, you know, like trying to actually play a football game. But like nerves were calmed and everything like that, and they're actually able to resume the football game in a very, like, you know, decent manner. I felt like it was just one random kid that, you know, sparked this whole thing. So like I said, I'm just like completely floored. I've never like seen something like that. I've seen like, also too, I've seen bad football. Like there was a kid last year who was who did like two or three really bad penalties, and they kicked the kid actually out of the game. Like it was like bad football, like he like was a blindside hit where he just like leveled this kid. We've had like, but that was like football happened, like, and the referees were like, that's a flag, you know, and the kid gets kicked out. Like I've seen that kind of stuff where it's like a really bad like football and they have to eject the kid or whatever. And but I've never seen that where it's like a kid just goes off for, also too, for like no reason. Like it wasn't like there was pushing and shoving going on and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden he just started wailing on him. Like it wasn't even provoked, like there was no reason for it. So like I said, it was kind of like scary, a little bit crazy. But you know, like I said, the game, you know, there wasn't much else. Jack actually also too, he made a tackle, but ended up getting, like, the way he fell, he ended up actually hurting his back. So I think he was actually out for like the last defensive drive or something like that. He didn't end up playing, ended up making the stop. They ended up like a couple plays later, they scored again. And then I think that we were on offense for the whole rest of the time. So I actually don't think that Jack ended up needing to go back in after that, but I think that that was sort of it. So yeah, guys, like I said, I'm sad that Jack's the football's over. It's just, it's like, it's weird because I feel like the fight actually too is what is distracting me more from actually like what, you know, like the good, you know, sort of, and the sad and stuff like that. It was just the absolute like craziness that ensued that I'm like, that was more like a UFC, MMA, boxing, or, you know, something like that than like what's it, like a football game, high school football game. Not to mention too, guys, I have never, ever, ever liked going to this school because the announcer drives me crazy. I think I've mentioned this before. I actually bring earplugs when we go to this school now, which they share a field with another high school. It's actually technically at their school, but it's not on their property or something like that. I don't know. They play on like a co-op football field, even though, like I said, it's really at the other schools, like on their, you know, like school grounds almost, but it's not really their grounds. So, but whenever we go here, I cannot stand it because the announcer that this school has, it is like they just stuck a fan up there and just let them yell. Like, if they just were like, oh, Kayla, you want to go up there and just yell into the microphone for the entire game and just try and say the things that you can see on the field, go ahead and do that. I cannot stand it. And even on top of that too, the sportsmanship that the announcer shows is completely horrible too. Oh, your home team is, you know, 32 to, you know, the away 0. Like, really, really bad stuff that, like, you don't expect your players to act like that, and you hold yourself to a higher standard, yet you have your announcer sounding like that. It's just really, like, demeaning, and like I said, just sort of like, you know, everything that happens to, and it's not even like a play-by-play, like good announcing or anything like that too. It's just, like I said, any chance that they can get to sort of like put down the other team, like in a way that's not like directly saying it, is like how he winds up doing it. And it's just really, really, like I said, just uncool. And like I said, whenever we go there, I put earplugs in because I don't like listening to it. And on top of that too, they turn the speakers up really loud. So like I said, there's 2 games that normally happen there. This year, the other team, we played at home this year, but like last year, we played for some reason both teams at that school, whereas normally we're always supposed to switch off every year. So this team, we were supposed to have played at home this year and not away. Sometimes that's not always the case, but like I said, this was sort of the exception with this team apparently this year, which is why I was so upset. But like I said, when we played them last year, and I think we played them back to back. So we played this team, and right before that we played the other team that has their home games there, that their school is technically like on the grounds, not you know, of the school, and you know, of the football field. And so, but when we listen to them, it's like night and day. The speakers are not really that loud, and like definitely they've turned them down compared to the other school. They turn them up like crazy, crazy loud. And on top of that too, there's no yelling from the other guy. This guy, like I said, just sits up there and he likes to yell and yell and yell and yell. And I will say though, there was a little less yelling this year than I feel like last year, but I genuinely feel like it's just very demeaning to another team. It's high school football, and you know, it's, you know, and it's not just encouraging your team, you know, like our announcer will be like, let them hear you, you know, home team and stuff like that, you know, like that kind of stuff to sort of pump up the crowd, or, you know, oh, there was an amazing catch by so-and-so or whatever, you know, and also too, you know, just like, again, equal parts sort of, you know, away and home sort of, you know, like play-by-play and commentary and things like that. It's a little bit more, like I said, equal ground, and you know, a little bit more unbiased too, you know, from like an announcer, and just like I said, you know, so that you can know what was happening. And our announcer's really, really good too at knowing the play, like the penalties. One of the schools that we went to, the announcer is actually the basketball coach, so I think it was a false start, and he called traveling because I think it's the same hand motion. And then there was something else too, I can't remember what it was, but he ended up saying something too, and then it was like, you know, because sometimes the hand gestures like for football are similar to ones that are in basketball, but they're not the same. And so he ended up calling certain things, and I'm like, nope, that's basketball. But again too, it's like, that's a little bit more innocent. Again too, it's like, you know, they're not paying professionals to do that or anything like that, but you know, you have to realize, sort of like I said, it has to be something that's like not, you know, that's educational too for fans that might not know that much. And you have to be able to tell sort of, like I said, the whole story, a really good unbiased sort of, again, opinion of what's going on in the game. This guy does not have that, and it really, really upsets me, and that's why I cannot stand it when we have to go there. Like, this is the worst. Like, I used to just not like having to go because of the announcer, but after what happened today in the football game with, like I said, that fight that happened, I don't like this team at all now. It gives me even more reason to not like them. It's funny though, because the team that I used to not like I said, that's like, around in our area, was the one that was the basketball coach that announces. I never liked that team because they used to play really, really, really dirty in youth football, and Matthew was always like, in high school they were always really cool, but I don't know, I just personally am not a huge fan of them, like, still, but this is probably my most disliked team that I possibly have. Like, it's funny, everybody sort of has like that rivalry, like, oh, we don't like this team or we don't like that team or whatever, but like, this team is just not, like, it's not okay, like the things that I feel like transpired today, and then on top of that too, just having a really, really, like I said, annoying announcer. And like I was saying too, like, it's just, I go to other schools, I listen to the announcers, obviously you have to when you're at the other schools and stuff like that, but none is as bad as this person is, just up there screaming, and like I said, just being a fan up in the announcer's booth, and then to not accurately knowing what's going on the football field. Like, you don't know proper terminology for things on top of that too. Like, it's just really, like, annoying. And then too, like I said, the very biased opinion of also too, like, putting down the other team. I feel like that's really, like I said, the unsportsmanlike, comes in from that aspect of the football, like, experience there, and I don't like that. And I don't think that that's okay either. And like I said too, I know that, I don't know what really happened. Jack's like, no, I do. I think it was Jack's freshman year was when I first noticed this, but, like, I don't really remember. Maybe I do. Like, Matthew's years of high school. I remember my dad getting really, really mad at one football game, but I don't remember which one it was at, and I think it was that one. I think it was because he was annoyed over, like I said, the announcing. But like I said too, guys, I'm just, like, that, I feel like that took way too much away from, like, what tonight was really supposed to be, which was about, celebrating Jack's last football game. And I did get pictures too. I got pictures of us. I recreated the first time Jack ever padded up and, suited up for his football game, and the very last time that he ever gets to. Along with too, I think the picture that I also took was the one right before his first football game. I think it was the last practice before his first football game, and then the one that I took today was obviously his last football game that he played. So, like I said, guys, I'm kind of sad, but I took a handful of other little pictures here and there as well. But yeah, guys, like I said, I'm just, like, I don't know. It hasn't really, it's weird. It hit me a lot yesterday because we didn't know for sure if Jack was actually going to be feeling up to playing. And I was like, I want to see him one more time. Like, I just want to see him once more out there. Like, I thought that I was going to get that, and I was scared that I wasn't going to. But then he did wind up getting into play, which is really cool again. Not very much, not very well. Again, the team overall, struggled a lot. But, again, it was good to just be able to see him at least that one last time, and just, it's weird. I feel like, again, he had a way better game too, like, last week, and so that's why, like, and his energy level too was so high last week, and then this week he just seemed very, like, like I said, very low and mellow and stuff like that, and it's just like, I'm like, that's not Jack out there, so sort of like, I don't know, not the same person almost out on the field, just because he didn't have, like I said, that same sort of energy about him, which made it feel a little different. So anyways, guys, I'm going to take a shower and get to bed. I'll see you guys all in tomorrow's vlog. If you guys did enjoy today's, make sure you guys give a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love if you'd subscribe, and I'll see all of your sunshiny faces tomorrow. So bye, guys.